Welcome to the Real Freedom Podcast, where we inspire you to pursue your passion to gain time and financial freedom through opportunities in real estate. I'm your host, Mike Swenson. Let's get some real freedom together. All right. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Real Freedom Podcast, where we talk about real estate leveraged freedom, building wealth, gaining time and financial freedom through opportunities in real estate. And today I'm so excited. We've got Chris Prefontaine here, and he's going to share with you a lot of building wealth in real estate and how that works. Very experienced. And so a little bit background about Chris here before we get in. Four-time best-selling author, books Real Estate on Your Terms, The New Rules of Real Estate Investing, and Sell with Authority for Real Estate Investors, founder of Wicked Smart Companies, and host of the Smart Real Estate Coach podcast. So you've been in real estate for 31 years. After the crash, re-engineered your entire business to weather all storms and economic cycles. Today, you guys run your creative financing business and in the trenches every day, helping people plan their escape from their W-2 jobs, getting in the trenches and doing deals with them. So, Chris, I think that's a big piece of kind of why I got into working with investors is I came into residential real estate 8 years ago. I just assumed I work for a nonprofit. I assumed people were making money hand over fist in real estate. And I saw so many people struggling. And, coming in on the residential real estate side, I saw regular agents that couldn't pay their bills, couldn't figure things out. They're sitting on a gold mine of opportunity here and just don't understand the value of what they're in. And so obviously you're somebody that's taken it, run with it, and has built a large business for you, but also helped a lot of people who don't have real estate as their full-time job build wealth and grow. So excited to see what you're going to share with us today. So welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. Glad to be here. And hopefully we'll drop some nuggets for them for sure.
If you just kind of want to share a little bit about why real estate, how you got into it, how that built and developed, and then we'll dig into some other stuff from there.
I'll sort of fast forward. As I said to you, I'm from New England, so I go fast, but I also want to go fast just because it's 31 years. And not only did that age me, thank you, but it also is a lot to talk about. So yeah. I was a realtor broker owner as well. I was a builder first. I didn't know how to build, but I teamed up with someone. We bought land on terms. I didn't know it back then. I was naive. I was in my 20s. And then I bought a brokerage, built that, sold it to Coldwell Banker. There's a good experience. I just didn't know back then how to do what we do now, creative real estate. So you and I will dive into that. I wish I did, because I would have crushed it. I think as a realtor back then when I was an owner, I did like 100 homes a year in my peak for like 3 years straight before selling, but I could have created some wealth instead of felt like I was spinning plates if I know how to do this. And then from 2000 on, I was coaching mostly high earning realtors back then. It was before creative real estate kicked in. And then the crash happened. And that was ugly. I call it the debacle in my book, but that was an ugly time. And from that point on, Mike, just to fast forward, that's when creative real estate came about, because I basically said, okay, I almost didn't get back into business. I got beat up so bad in the crash. And when I did, I said, all right, what are sort of the rules we're going to operate in? What's the box look like that I'll be able to operate within? And that was no signing personally on bank debt ever, maybe an exception of your personal residence. No borrowing from investors, and buying everything on terms, creative real estate. So that's lease purchase, owner financing, or subject to existing financing. And so just to tie this together, then I'll throw it back to you. As a realtor, if I had my realtor hat on back then and I knew how to do this, there are not too many homes that I'd have to walk away from. So if I didn't get a listing, I could buy it. If they didn't want to go short sale, I could buy it. There's so many ways I could have helped the seller and been a much better guide. And as a result, made a whole bunch of money. So that's as short as I can go for 31 years. How's that?
Well, and talking about the market crash, kind of my experience going through that is I was newly married. My wife was going to school to get her master's degree, and I worked for a nonprofit, and we had bought a townhouse. The townhouse crashed. I was excited. We got it for a couple $1,000s less than what the previous owners got it for. Crashed. And I watched all my neighbors in the townhouse complex go foreclosure, short sale, you name it.
Yeah.
And at that time, I had done a little bit of construction. I was interested in real estate, but I wasn't in it full time. And I see the opportunity that was out there. And I remember thinking like, gosh, I wish I could have a way to scoop up these properties for half price. And instead we just were underwater on our home for a long time, ended up renting it out. bought a short sale and kind of recovered. But, those are the opportunities out there for people that know what they're doing. And so, we're obviously in an interesting spot in the market right now with where rates are at. And so there's a lot of opportunity here where I think a lot of people just feel like, oh, rates are so high, I'm just going to crawl up in a ball and wait till rates go down. And no, there's a lot of opportunity here. So I think it's knowing to recognize the opportunity and knowing to be able to take action on it.
Well, a couple of things you said that were really interesting. So in no particular order, one is people think, especially them been around a long time, that rates are high, quote unquote, right? And they are, relatively speaking, but our 50-year average, Mike, is 7.7. That's our 50-year average. And we're not quite there yet, unless they bumped up more than last time I looked, they were like, I don't know, sevens or high sixes. So whatever they are now, they're not 7.7, I don't think. So what's the tie to the opportunity with that? When the rates kept doing what they did, there were buyers on the cusp, right? Clearly, that could buy, thought they could buy. Now, sadly, them and their families can't. If they're on the cusp of creditworthiness or qualifying, now they can't. So you just pushed hundreds of thousands, I don't know what the number is, of buyers to the sidelines. Therefore, clearly, the sellers aren't selling like they used to in most markets, and it's starting to trickle out. So that just created an enormous opportunity for creative real estate, because that's exactly who we help, who we buy homes from. And I don't want to make it sound like it's just people that need help. We buy homes that are free and clear. That's one of our best areas we kind of fish in, and that's debt-free homes. This building I'm sitting in right now, speaking to you, recording this episode, this is a office building I bought, owner financing, free and clear. This is who we like to go after, that niche. And so it's not just people that need help, but it is a lot of both sides of that, if that makes sense.
For sure. So for people out there that have kind of said, I've always wanted to get into real estate, I don't really know how to get started, what should I do? What advice do you have for those folks?
Well, okay, so I'll give you a non-biased comment, and that'll be more direct. So my non-biased comment is, I'm very biased to creative real estate. That time has not been better in 31 years, but let me just be general. Find a niche that you get excited about. Like in our niche, it's a lot about helping people. So so we tend to attract that type of person. Then once you find that niche that you can get behind, and again, I personally think it's creative real estate, and no better timing in 31 years. Second, find someone in that niche that you like. And this could be any business person, by the way, it doesn't have to be real estate. Find someone in that niche that has weathered a bunch of, at least 2 market cycles, and maybe even some personal challenges too, because that person can then guide you, and you need a guide. And number 3, this is the toughest. Put the blinders on for 3 to 7 years. Like I used to just say 3, but I know businesses take time, entrepreneurship takes time. So you got to put the blinders on and not get caught up with the shiny object syndrome. So for example, we're sitting here, you and I, recording in almost November, last day of October. And right this second, if there'll be people in the next, say, 6 months that say, get it, I want to run with this, creative real estate opportunities there. This is how fortunes are created. And they'll create like a decade of income in the next 9 to 12 months if they do it right. Or let's just say conservatively 9 to 24, because we've trademarked our 3 payday system. So when I was a realtor, I used to get a house sold, get a check, right? It's normal. Build a house, get a check. 3 payday system is get a check now, get a check monthly, and get a check 3, 4, 5 years down the road. Well, that's pretty cool. That's what I mean by setting up a decade of income and not being on that proverbial treadmill.
Yeah. And just to clarify, you said 3 to 7 years for blinders, not 3 to 7 weeks.
Yeah.
Not 3 to 7 months. Being in real estate, it's shiny object syndrome chasing, right? And so it's just knocking down that nail time after time after time. So for somebody who's looking to get in, they hear about creative real estate. We're talking about, trying to take over for people that are owners, people who maybe have mortgages, and you can do that. So why don't you just kind of walk through for folks that maybe aren't that familiar with what kind of the seller financing, this creative piece is, just give us kind of the quick nuts and bolts, and then we'll dive in deeper from there.
Yeah, I'll give you a thumbnail of each technique, and I'll answer more specifically your last question, which was how can they get started? I think for a new person, the first technique I'm going to explain is best, and I'll say why. And that is a sandwich lease. You can't do that in Texas, but you can do it everywhere else. It's just you're going to tie up a home under a lease purchase. You're going to then, as an equitable interested partner in that home, you're going to then have the right to go ahead and put a buyer in there. We tend to put rent-to-own buyers in there who just need time. During this climate, a whole bunch of them need time to get qualified again or to build up cash. Now, I said it's easiest for you if you're new, because all you are, the sandwich is the seller, the buyer, and you're in the middle. And you're not taking title to the property. Our agreements are pre-built with a $10 deposit. literally the student after student, but Brian in Chicago recently at one of our events explained to the audience his first 8 deals, because it was easy, he did $10 deposits and created a little over 800 grand in 3 paydays. I mean, that's almost money out of thin air. And I don't mean to water it down. There's a skill set he learned, but $10 deposit, that's lease purchase. Owner financing, like the building right here that I'm sitting in, those for us are more free and clear properties, as I alluded to earlier, and we structure principal only payments to the owner as the bank. So if you're not familiar with owner financing, it just means that when you close, there's no new money by way of a bank coming to the table in your settlement statement. The owner steps in and they are the bank, and you make payments to them. So every single month, the widow of the gentleman who sold me this building gets a check from us instead of a bank. I did not have to go through underwriting, commercial underwriting, even worse, and deal with all that crap that you have to go through for underwriting. I just cut a deal with the seller. And it's a huge recession sort of hedge, Mike, because think of that: principal only payments, no interest. There's usually an inverse relationship when you buy a home because you have all interest. So that's owner financing. And then the last one is a little bit more advanced, not for the brand new person yet. And that is subject to existing financing. So that is more for someone in trouble, unlike free and clear. And that is for someone that says, look, I just can't afford it. Or, hey, I can't do the second home anymore. Or, hey, I've got COVID. We buy the home and the loan stays in their name. They still stay as the guarantor, but I own their home. Those are neat right now. We just got one. I forget what state it was in, with a student with an underlying interest rate of 2.2%. Imagine that, 2.2. So you're buying homes now where rates are in the, say, 6s and 7s. You're buying them for 2, 3, and 4 if you use that third technique. So that's my shortest answer I can give you on those 3. I can go back to any one of them if you want.
Let's talk about subject 2 for a little bit. For those people out there, well, number one, I'm going to kind of fly up to 30,000 foot here and change people's perspective. You know, a lot of people think, I want to get a property, I got to go talk to a bank, you know? Right. And so just kind of breaking from that, the way that we've been programmed is the banks have money, I have to go get money from a bank. And, you know, the stuff that you work in is, it's really just putting together, I have a need and I have something over here and I have a need, and you're trying to work creatively to marry those 2 things together. And so that's where, you know, you don't have to go through application processes and submitting all your financials and all that, because you're finding a need and you're trying to help somebody. And so I think a lot of times, yeah, there's a bad reputation out there where people think like, oh, you're trying to take advantage of people, but really it's just, you're trying to figure out, how do I put one person on the box on one side, one person on the box on the other side, and how do we meet in the middle and find something that works for both parties?
Yeah, we actually, okay, 2 things in that. Yes, all we do is solve problems. People say, well, how did you convince, like, this building's on a very busy street, if I look out my window, right? And people go, well, how'd you convince it? I didn't convince him anything. He wanted, for planning reasons, estate reasons, and cash flow reasons, and tax reasons, all of the above, he wanted owner financing. So I solved it for him. And as far as taking advantage, not only do we solve, we pay usually full price, Mike. It's crazy. So you don't have to convince anyone. You have to find someone who has a problem or a goal they're trying to accomplish, like this guy. He wasn't a financial problem, and help them accomplish it. And that's it. That's all we do. And the ones that aren't in that mode, then they can go sell conventionally. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes people are just looking for cash flow streams. Sometimes people don't want to have capital gains taxes and things like that. And so there's reasons why people do different things. So I think that would be another piece of advice is don't come in assuming that you have to convince somebody or that somebody's motivated by the same things that you're motivated by. Right. And so it's just asking questions and figuring out, what's the need you have? What's the problem that we can try to solve? And then we just reverse engineer. How do we go about and do that?
Absolutely. That's why I brought up the buyer trend right now. This is the third time in 50 years in our economy, third time, where there's an affordability problem, not just a supply and demand. And if it's an affordability problem now and we haven't hit 7.7 or higher yet, what's going to happen when we go higher? So just a thought for the opportunity in front of you.
Let's back up here too. The reason why we're doing these types of deals, right, is, there's this, like you'd mentioned the 3 payday thing. And so let's talk about that is, typically, I was in real estate as an agent selling residential real estate. The people that I, first interacted with when I got into real estate, it's I'm on the hamster wheel of sales, right? I have to make a sale to make another sale to make another sale. And you get to December 31st and we wash that production away. Here's how many deals, here's how much volume. And now I'm back to zero again. And I've got to do the same thing over and over again. And so many people treat real estate that are in it full time like a sales job of I sell house, I get commission, I sell house, I get commission. And we need to think about building wealth. We need to think about this longer term. And like you said, figuring out a way where you can create something that, as economies change, as things change, you have a tool belt that's versatile and you can adapt, but you're building wealth along the way versus just making sales. And, at the end of the year, I just wash it away and I'm back at zero again.
Yeah, I have a metric for you. I love just giving you exact instead of theory. So I just thought this as you were saying that statement about wealth. So we did a 12-month look back, right? And we said, okay, how many payday 1s and 2s and 3s did we create? Payday 2, just for the sake of this discussion, is the difference between what I collect from my tenant buyer while they're getting financing and their rent to owning in what I'm paying the bank or the seller. That's it. It's a small spread. But in that 12-month look back, we created 60, I think it was like 6,400 and change, call it 6,400 even, in monthly net spread over the course of the last 12 months, just on Payday 2. Now, I don't know about you, but as well as any of us can do in real estate, to get that kind of passive income coming out of an investment, I do the math of whatever investment interest rate you think you can get. I think it's like upwards of 8 or 10 million you would need in the bank to kick out $6,500 a month. Well, I don't know if I could do that next year, but I know how to tell you or show you how to create that kind of passive income. And then of course you get the other paydays as well. But that's just an analogy of how cool it is to not be on the treadmill. Because I agree with you. I'd get to January, it would actually be depressing after 3 or 4 years as a broker owner, because I go, I got to do it again. Like I get it. I had a fun year, but I got to do it again. That's crazy. And the 3 payday system is good for any business owner. Picture it. If you said to a restaurant owner, hey, I got to wait for you to make money now, make money monthly, and then make money down the road for wealth building, who would say no to that? That's the 3 payday system.
Yeah, it's the idea of working smarter, not harder. Yep. And if you love working with clients, if you're in the residential space and you love working with first-time home buyers, whatever, that's great. You can still do that. And how do you start to plant some seeds to grow this stream of income so that you don't have to be as dependent on those sales? I mean, what if you got to the point where you made sales because you like helping people, not because you have to pay your bills? And so, I mean, and this is what baffles me being in real estate full time, is there's so many people that are in other industries that are just scratching and clawing and trying to find enough time, trying to find enough money, trying to find and get that momentum going in real estate because they see real estate as the path of their future success and wealth building. And then you have people that are in real estate for full time and they just don't see the value of this pot of gold that they're sitting on.
Yeah, and if anyone listening in your listening database is in this relative mode that we're talking about, think of it this way. Think of anything that doesn't fit inside your box as far as a buyer or a seller. As good as I thought our team was back in the 90s when I was very active, I did it for 18 years out of my 31. As good as I thought we were, I lost listings. As good as I thought we were, we didn't have buyers that could qualify. As good as I thought we were, we couldn't sell all the, it's just nature of the beast. So take all those things that don't fit in your conventional box, and now you can buy them if you want, and be a authority in your marketplace. Because how many sellers are going to stop flapping their lips very positively when you couldn't have a solution, but you morally and ethically said, I got one though. I can buy your house. I'm an investor too. That's pretty cool.
Okay. So we talked about the 3 payday system. Why don't you just dig into that a little bit deeper? Just to kind of tell folks how that works. You obviously covered that kind of on a high level here, but walk through that.
Yeah. Cause this is important because I listen to a lot of podcasts. I'm on, 8 or 10 shows a week, and I hear people teaching the rent-to-own system as well. You put a rent-to-own buyer in your home as an investor, and who cares if they cash out type mentality. Morally and ethically, that's awful, frankly. It may get away with it legally. So I preface that to say the 3 paydays for this reason. Payday 1 is a down payment from a worthy buyer that just can't get financing today. They might have a credit glitch. They might have got a divorce, death, COVID, legitimate stuff. Not like I've had bad credit for 30 years, right? So they legitimately just need time to fix their credit. Or with this whole COVID onslaught of people leaving their W-2 and moving into entrepreneurship, a lot of them didn't realize, oh man, now I need 2 years of what the bank calls seasoning to report my income. And without that, I can't get a home. So we're giving them the opportunity to get in a home. So that's down payment from a worthy buyer. And that ranges for us 26 to 30 grand. My students can be a lot higher. Just in our market, it's a little low. Then the Payday 2 is that spread I said earlier between what I'm paying out for that property and what I'm collecting. For us, it averages around $308. It's a lot higher in some of our other markets with students. And then the payday 3 is down the road, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, whatever deal you structured, years, that's all of your principal pay down you accrued throughout the term of that property and your markup. So average for us is around 75 grand. Average in our entire Wicked Smart community ranges from a low of 45 grand to a high of $250,000. That's per deal, all 3 paydays, and that's how they work.
Just to summarize that, let's just call it 25 to 30,000 at the beginning. Let's call it 75,000 at the end, and then $300 a month. That's pretty significant. So would you rather do that and find opportunities to do that, or would you rather try to sell a home, make $10,000, maybe $15,000, and then move on to the next one and have nothing else to show for it? So talk about the students that you have that are trying to escape kind of the 9-to-5 job, the W-2 job. Talk about how they can help make that transition. How does that work? I don't know. In some ways it's like, I want to be able to see a path from somebody so I can follow that. So walk through, what's a path for them? How do I get out of that W-2 job?
Yeah. So first and foremost, let me, again, broad scope. We've got what we call a 3-year, $1 million plan. And that doesn't mean you'll make $1 million 3 years. It means that after the 3rd year, following the metrics that I outlined in the plan, and we can give everybody a free version of this. It's a simple PDF. They'll have a business producing all 3 paydays $1 million a year. Now, will some people go slower? Yeah. Who cares if it took 5 years if that's your plan? Some people in my community have done it in 18 months. The guy, Brian, I mentioned. But so it's your own pace. It's just a guide. So that's number 1. Number 2, here's a big thing, Mike. Here's the big connector. I think there's an enormous gap in the real estate industry, but other industries too, where people see a course or go attend a course or go online and learn a course, and then they don't do a deal. It's like, I think the biggest issue is, I'm super clear now. I don't think there's no hands-on interactive, let me lock arms with you and do this deal with you. The seminar's warm and fuzzy, but then you go out and the curveballs come and you go, oh man, they didn't tell me this. So we try to tell you that up front. My book does that too. We're going to give one to your audience for free, no charge. But also, let's do it together. Let's be interactive. There's no better way to learn. And that's how we bridge that gap I referred to. So for the new person, and let me just give 2 quick examples. So I mentioned Brian earlier. He's in Chicago, elevator salesman, 17 years, no real estate experience except for pissed off that he didn't get enough for his house. I think he lost money on his first house, personally. A second gentleman right here in New Hampshire, not far from me. I'm in Rhode Island, 20 something years working for the government, does well, 6 figures. This is our typical person, 6 figures, wants to make a change. He's leaving. I asked him this weekend, how are we doing on your escape? That's what we call it in our community. He said, I'm looking like July 1 of 23 or maybe earlier. He just completed his 3rd deal. All 3 deals were over 100,000, all 3 paydays. First 3 deals coming out of the gate. Engineer, as I call him, an engineer brain. But think of that. I won't tell you what he makes, but he makes good 6 figures, but he just almost doubled his income with 3 of our deals. Well, that is pretty cool. And that's how helping them plan their escape if they're serious about doing it.
What are ways, at least just some kind of basic tips for people? How do we find those deals? Where do we get started? And obviously, learning from you is key. Being able to, like you talked about, have somebody that kind of can guide you and show you. But for people out there, like, I don't even understand how this works. How do we go find these deals?
Well, the cool thing, especially if they're realtors, is we're not looking in many different places than you already are. We have a service, My Plus Leads, that kicks us out all the expireds, the for sale by owner, the for rent by owner. There's other lists now too, but those 3 are our main lists. Just like you would, and just like I did back in my realtor days, I'd call them. The difference is you have more things in your bag of tricks now to offer them. You can objectively, morally, and ethically look at it and say, what do I want to do with it? So that's where we get the leads. Then if someone's in a market where either there's not a lot of that going on or their goals are bigger and they want more leads, we then turn to niched lists like Free and Clear. A third of the properties, Mike, in the United States, roughly, depending on what market you're in, are free and clear. Imagine that, a third. These are great people to deal with. And during COVID, there was a whole bunch of them dumping second homes, and they still are to this day. And they're doing so by saying, I want to do owner financing. So those are kind of 4 main lists. We can go deeper with people that, get more advanced, but those are the main ones where we get our leads.
And then typically, how does that conversation start with somebody? What are some tips you can give for folks on that?
Yep. I'll give you a quick script. First of all, most of our students, and we always have, except for maybe my first 6 months in the creative world, we have virtual assistants call. They're trained by us and they actually call first for you. So you're not doing that initial call. So you're only speaking to people that go, yeah, I'm kind of open. Let them have your investor call me or your partner call me. The script is simple though. If I was to do the initial call, whether it's a FSBO, expired, doesn't matter. I would just simply ask, let's say it was you. I'd say, Mike, I see your price is X. Let's say it's 300 grand. Mike, if I can get you to your price, now I haven't even seen your house yet, but if I can get you to your price, are you open to doing that on a lease purchase or owner financing? And most people say, well, no, I want to sell it. No kidding. 99% of the sellers I buy from do, but, and then I just give them reality of the market right now. The market's changed. It's going to change again and again and again. So if it doesn't sell, then use us as your backup plan. That's a simple script. Or I go to the simple 3-tier script. Where are you going? By when? That tells you have to motivate it, or they're just kind of fishing. And what if it doesn't sell? That tells me everything I need to know and what their problem might or might not be.
This is the cool part. I mean, it sounds so simple. And for those that are listening to this that are outside of real estate and looking to get into real estate, it can be that simple. You've got the tools to be able to do that. It's just carving out the time and then taking the action to make that work. And yeah, in 20 minutes, 25 minutes together here, we kind of talked about, why would somebody be interested in doing this outside of a job? How do they go find those people? What do they say to those people? And how can that build and grow to get out of your 9-to-5 job and to get into real estate? And I think for a lot of people, real estate really can be the solution. You don't have to try to work your way up a corporate ladder. You don't have to try to make $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 in a sales job. It's just this way you can build passive income that grows into active income. And on 100%. Top of that, and it's just a great spot. And so real estate's a fun spot to be. It's a great spot for people to build their wealth. And I love how you're helping people get there.
Yeah, it's awesome. I guess I'll add one thing to what you said they should do, and that is manage their expectations. There's just too many crap ads out there going, oh, get rich tomorrow. I'm the first to tell you, it's not going to be tomorrow, but it'll be very predictable. And you can see the pathway once you work with us. So, or someone in your space. Just manage that.
Final topic I wanted to touch on here for today is, obviously we talked about how you're building and helping people in terms of building. So now, for people that are successful in real estate or have done some things in real estate, or even entrepreneurs in other areas, you obviously built a business around, training, coaching, mentoring, social media, live events. Talk about how those pieces of your business, books, podcasts, how those pieces have evolved over the last handful of years as your companies continue to grow here. How much strategy, time do you put into all this other stuff? And eventually it comes down to, you've got somebody who's just saying, go here, do this. But I'd love to hear kind of how you build these other arms on top of your business.
Well, they morphed from, in 2014, we have a war college here. They go for training and whatnot. And one of the guys going back to civilian life literally called me and said, I heard about you. I'm going back to civilian life. I think it was Cleveland. Can you show me what you do? I mean, that's literally how it started. And then we wrote a little ebook about sandwich leases, and then that built our list a little bit. And now fast forward, we hit Inc. 5000 the last 2 years in a row, because our footprint is so big now, Mike, because people are having success. It's not, you can't hide that. The social proof is everywhere now. So then now you got a market that the best time in 31 years, it's feeding us. So it's not hard to let those organically grow. As far as how I do it, I mean, we've got a great team. It started with myself, my son, Nick, and my son-in-law, Zach, and my daughter, Kayla. And now we've got, 19 people that run the coaching side of things. And then the property entities has always been right here in house with my, small group of team members, like 4. So they run concurrently though. Here's why I say that. When you coach and help people, a lot of stuff comes from the field, right? We've got 140 people out there, say, doing deals. All kinds of curveballs come back at us to help them with. That means we're sharpening us so big time. And likewise, right back at them. So we're in the field doing deals. And after 31 years, I still get surprised here and there with deals. And then we bring that to the community on a weekly basis. So it's like a give and take, if that makes sense. So there's no better thing than seeing someone go from A to Z and leaving their job. And there's no better thing than sharpening your sword constantly as you teach people. It's pretty cool.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Chris, for coming on. Appreciate your time and appreciate you sharing your wisdom. So much here that we couldn't cover. So how can folks hear about you and learn more about what you're doing?
I'll give you 2 free things. I'm big on free because there is so much opportunity in real estate, and you choose. But 2 things you can do. One is go to smartrealestatecoach.com/masters with an S class. You'll get, if you don't mind dealing with my New England speed, you'll get me for about 55 minutes, and we give you A through Z. How do we do this? And then I'll send you off with some resources free. And if you want to get into it further, you'll know how. And then the second thing I mentioned in your show, let's give your audience a book. And when I say a free book, I don't mean they got to put a credit card in for shipping. I think those are bogus free offers. We literally ship downstairs. Sue does it. She'll ship you a couple of our best-selling books and maybe some goodies in there, and we pay for it. And so just go to wickedsmartbooks.com/REL. And then I'll know it's your tribe, and we offered everybody in your tribe that free package.
Well, thank you so much, Chris, for coming on and sharing, just like I said, a wealth of information. There's so much that you've accomplished. I wish we could always cover more in our limited time together, but appreciate you taking the time and sharing all your knowledge with us. And yeah, go check out the website, go get those books. And, I think the key is you got to start somewhere. You got to start building that passive income, and real estate's a fun place to be. And if you're not here yet, you should get here.
Keep spreading the word, buddy. Good job.